You're watching New Car Spin, and I'm your host, Brian. This here is probably, no, definitely the most underrated car I've driven in the past 3 years. And I don't care who you are, what you do for a living, if you're rich or you're poor, or if you drive a Ferrari, if you have a Bentley, or if you have a $500 piece of crap car, this car will bring a smile to anyone's face. And it is the Corolla Hatchback. Obviously, it's a front-wheel drive, 4-cylinder hatchback. It's not a hot hatch, it's just a very fun car to drive. And it's actually the XSE. I've driven a few of these, the Nightshade Edition, the first one I ever drove. I was actually like one of the first 40 journalists to ever drive one in the world, and I drove it on a racetrack. I couldn't give you the driving impressions of it, but this one I can. And this one you will get to know more about, because do you notice anything strange in here? You see that? It has 3 pedals. You see that? Yes, it's a manual. So this is probably the most rare of any production vehicle you can get today, let alone just being a Toyota. So you have to put your foot on the clutch and the pedal and hold them down while you're starting the car. If you lift up off the clutch while it's starting, it won't start. So kind of a quirk. Yes, an electronic parking brake, but look, it also has auto hold for the lights in a manual, which is really weird. It actually also has radar cruise in a manual. And if you see that sticker right there, it's backwards, but you can kind of see it. Toyota Safety Sense, which they now call, what do they call that? Well, that's basically the radar cruise, auto braking, and all that stuff that comes with the car now, and it's standard. So this car does have a lot of features, and it has great design. So I like it from that perspective. You have the auto climate control. We don't have a map here, but we basically have, let's go here. Okay, so the map itself is not installed, but you could do, I think, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay if you do the cable, which runs right here. So I think that's where it is. We have heated seats, and although they're not canceling and it's not wireless charging, we do have our cup holders. It's just a very good layout. No sunroof, but we do have a black headliner. And this is the cool part. This car is definitely for a younger audience, but when I was younger, we didn't have auto headlights, we didn't have fog lights or any kind of a touchscreen system, and we don't have auto dimming mirrors, but that's okay. We just sort of have everything we need in here, plus a little bit more. Auto windows up and down, front and rear, and the rear windows go all the way down, and they're auto up. I mean, this car has everything. I like this instrumentation here. That is a center digital display, but the outer displays are analog, but they look so good. You can tell right here that they're analog, but from back here they all look digital. And so even at night, the display looks really good, and when it comes on, it all fades in. It's just a really cool design, really well put together car. Let me show you the back. The seats fold down. Yes, it's a little cramped back here for teenagers, and we have cup holders in the doors. Very nice to have. And a lot of people like hatchbacks because they're like CUVs but lower. This is interesting, a little hook here to hang things on in your trunk. And this trunk mat I think is for the sedan because it doesn't seem to fit. But if we pull up the cover, we have no spare tire, we have a fit kit, which is basically weight reduction. And that brings me to the best part of this car. It's only 3,000 pounds. Maybe a little less because it has the manual transmission. It has some quirks though, like, let me get my seatbelt on here and show you some stuff. Okay, so we've got the parking brake on. Let's turn that off. So foot on the brake. We're gonna move forward like a foot. All right, and we're gonna set the auto hold. So now when we come to a stop, you can see there it's holding, but we're in first. So I gotta put it in neutral, take my foot off the clutch, take my foot off the brake, and now we're being held. Now the weird thing is if I rev the engine, okay, and now the light turns green, I put my foot on the clutch, oh good. For some reason, sometimes it won't go into first, because like I rev the engine and for some reason the thing doesn't engage, but once in a while that happens to me, which is really weird. But you'll notice another button here called IMT, Intelligent Manual Transmission, and that basically does rev matching. So we're gonna make a U-turn here, just kind of show you how tight this thing can turn. Crank the wheel all the way, no one's coming. Yep, it made that. Very impressive. So the way this manual transmission works with the IMT engaged, which resets every time you turn the car off. You have to turn it on every single time, which to me is opposite. I'd like to turn it off. But when you change from first to second, put your foot on the clutch. And then when you move to the second gear, it adjusts the RPM. So here we're going to third. Now watch what happens when I go back and add down into second. Foot on the clutch. See that? It revved it just enough so that I can get into gear without having to put my foot on the gas. Try this again if you can see it. And that makes for really smooth city driving. So if you're a first-time driver or you want to learn, you can obviously turn that on or off and get the type of driving that you want. But for me, it makes sense because in stop and go traffic and all that, you're going through a lot of gear changes. That IMT button, which does the rev matching, really helps with just daily driving, which is why I'm surprised it's not on by default. And if you're trying to drive this hard and aggressively, you definitely want to turn that off because it does impede the ability to do better gear changes when you're trying to like really rip through. But the best part about this car is it's only 3,000 pounds, so it's a lot lighter than, let's just say, an EV. And also, it has great handling. This is on some pretty much summer sport tires. And while it's not a fast car, it definitely feels fast because you're able to take corners at pretty good speeds for a kind of car that this is. And when I say that, what I really mean is, take a guess what you think a car like this sells for today. It's a hatchback, it's got 4 seats, it's got a touchscreen, you can get nav, it's got radar cruise, it's got a manual transmission, electronic parking brake, it's got a faux leather stitched dash. Okay, take a guess for that price. And what I'll do is I will pull over right here and I will pull out the window sticker. You're gonna be wrong. Set the brake. The brake automatically sets, by the way, when you turn the car off. Heated seats. Let's do this. Ready? Ready, ready, ready. By the way, the fuel economy has been great. You'll see I have a quarter tank. Usually when I do my reviews, it's the very last minute and they're empty. I've driven this all week and it's been such a fuel sipper. I would say that the last 7 cars I've had, so the last 7 weeks, I've had to refill the tanks. Not this one. Okay, so ready? It's the Corolla Hatchback XSE. Wind Chill is the name of the color. Pretty cool. It's made in Japan. Very cool. This car, I think, in the future will be a great car for tuner people. When I mean tuner people, I mean people who like to tune their cars. Look at this. Adaptive front headlights. The black roof is an extra cost. Blah, blah, blah. $26,922. So if you don't get all these options, which are just the bumper protector, the TRD air filter, which is probably a cold air intake kind of thing, and adaptive front lights and the special color and the black roof, like literally it starts at $23,700. You tell me what kind of car looks this good and has a manual, but besides the Toyota 86, and is fun to drive and is very practical and has a hatch, and this car would work anywhere in the world at this kind of setup. You tell me where you can get a car like that for less than $25,000 and is fuel efficient. And, you know, especially for those of you who like your Uncle Joe, and wants you to pay a lot of money for fuel right now, this is the best car you could be stuck with for a situation like high gas prices, over an EV, of course. So this car is just amazing. It's fun to drive because it's got this manual transmission. You can throw it around corners, it'll grip. You could take it on the highway. You could practice your gear changes. They're pretty crisp. The shifter feels good. It's also very high, so the hand doesn't have to move far from the steering wheel. You can see how high up that is. It's not like a short throw, short shifter, or anything like that. It's just a very moderate car, very easy to drive, and I think you can't go wrong with this setup, because the automatic version is much slower feeling, and it's frustratingly slow, but it also is a CVT with a first gear. So this manual Corolla hatch is the only way to go. And to put it in reverse, it's almost like an old Corvette. You have to lift this ring up to get that back into reverse, and you have a backup camera. Pretty remarkable. It's hard to do with a camera here, so bear with me. And of course you can get all the burnout and scratch you want with a manual and front wheel drive. Stuff that is almost impossible these days in any other new car. So there we have it. Fantastic car, fantastic price point, excellent fuel economy. And you're gonna get, obviously, the brand has reliability and residual value is there. Everything's there for this car. This is the one to get. If you were to go to any dealership right now and they only had these cars, get the manual and laugh your way home, because this car is such a hoot, and it's so balanced through the corners. For a front wheel drive car, this thing is just such a shocker. And yes, there's the Toyota 86, and that is more of a Subaru collaboration, and it's a rear-wheel drive car, and it's just a different type of vehicle. But I think if you wanted the practicality and the usability and still have that sportiness, and obviously this, you have to get this car. You have to. You will not be tired of this. This car is like a good friend. It's got a little quirky stuff, like you can't use the radar cruise with a manual. Like it won't stop the car, like, or maybe it will, but you'll definitely stall. There's some weird stuff about it that you'll get used to, and you'll have to learn anyway, but that's the best part. So if you're a student and you need a new car, or you're a first-time driver and you're gonna get a new car, this is the one to get. It's got all the safety features, it's modern, it looks cool, it's very comfortable, these seats are great, it handles well. You will learn a lot in this car, and hopefully you'll do a lot. All right, thanks for watching. I'm off to drop this car off and pick up my next one, which is the Genesis GV70. See ya.